Hey, welcome back to Brighter Rays. This week we have been looking at what we started last time. We started looking at Genesis chapter 44. Today we're going to do like half of, I think we'll do about half of the chapter. We're going to do 1 through 17 here. And which is really, that is half. So anyway, we're going to take a look at this and see what God has to say. So I called today's study, God has found out the guilt, because that's what Judah says. So yeah, let's get into this. Now, chapter 44 begins with the morning of the following day of the banquet that Joseph and his brothers have. Now, Joseph and his brothers enjoyed their time together, but now it was time for the brothers to take the food that they had come to buy in the first place and to go back home. Well, Joseph goes to his steward and tells him to fill their bags with food as much as they can carry and to put each man's money in the mouths of their sack. So far this looks like Joseph is repeating himself, right? That's what he did last time. But this time he tells the steward to take his silver cup and put it into Benjamin's bag. And so the faithful servant does what Joseph says and goes out there, and the donkeys are loaded up, the brothers have all their things, and they are sent on their way. Now the brothers must have been overjoyed that they were leaving the city because, they have the food, the accusation of being spies is done, they got their brothers, they're all together, it was a great morning for them, this is an awesome time, right? This is the best morning after you were just hoping to survive this trip. You're getting to go home with all this food, and you got to sit down with the governor, and this, probably in their minds they're thinking, well, then we can come back if we need more food. If this famine keeps going on, we can come back now. We got a rapport with the man. Well, Joseph waits for a little time for them to leave, go out of the city, and then he enacts his plan. So that Joseph is he's got a plan already. He's gonna now put it into motion. So he goes to his steward and he lets him in on what's going on. Joseph tells him to ride out after the men and then to say to them, "Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks, and by this he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this." Of course, the steward knows that all this is a setup and that he is really just playing a role in this plan of Joseph. So the steward chases the brothers down just like he's told, and he confronts them. Now, he must have been a good actor because he plays the role of the angry steward who is confronting thieves in a very convincing way. The brothers believe it because when the brothers hear what they are accused of, they respond with confusion. They say, "Why does my Lord speak such words as these?" In other words, "What are you talking about? We didn't steal anything from you. You gave us this stuff." Well, and they're like, "Well, we wouldn't do that. How could we do that? Why would we steal from you?" Then they bring in some logic into their argument. These guys are not stupid, so they bring in some logic. They remind the steward that when they found the money the first time, that they came to buy food, they brought that money back this time. So if they wanted to steal, why wouldn't they just have kept the money, right? So if they were trying to steal from them, it doesn't make sense to bring the money back to them. They would have just kept it. To steal now wouldn't make any sense. And that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? I mean, they could have just kept the money the first time. Why would they steal again? And then they make, I believe, the foolish promise that if one of them has the cup, that person will die for it. This should remind us of what Jacob said. He made the same kind of promise, right? When Laban came and accused him of stealing something, what does he say? Well, if someone's found with your teraphim, then that person should die. Well, of course, Rachel has them. So it's not a smart move on their part. It's kind of a foolish oath to take because you don't know everyone. You're thinking that you know everybody, but in both situations, you don't know what's happening. So to make that promise, you're promising too much. So they make that foolish statement, and there's definitely a lesson learned there to be, make promises you can keep instead of making ones that you have no idea what the details are and then really going to get yourself burned in the end. But that's what they do. Now, the steward doesn't accept their promises of death. He doesn't say, if someone has this, because they're saying if someone has this cup, and that has your stuff, then that person should die. Well, he said, he says, he who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent. So he says, no, 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 no. The person doesn't have to die. This person will just be my servant, and the rest of you can go. Here's where I think we see just the wisdom of Joseph. This is really a multi-tiered plan. He's able to test their honesty, their loyalty to their family, especially loyalty to Benjamin. And he would be able to keep Benjamin with him, preventing him from returning to Canaan. Joseph wants Benjamin to be with him, his brother, so he doesn't want him to go back to Canaan. So here's this multi-tiered plan. This test would be able to answer a lot of questions for him. He's definitely being here the wise and discerning man of Egypt. Now, the steward proceeds to search the bags of the brothers, beginning with the oldest, and then searches their bags in order of their age. Of course, the steward knows where the cup is, but he plays up the suspense. He's starting to go through, and they're like, oh man, each bag opens, you're like, well, is it there? I don't know. It's not mine. It's not mine, He keeps going through until he gets to the last one where he knows the cup is at, and there's the cup. So the brothers tear their clothes in a rage, and they turn around and they return back to the city because they have no other choice. What are they going to do? Run? That doesn't make any sense. So they're like, ugh, we've been beaten. All this is against us, right? What is God doing to us? And so they turn around, they head back to the city. When the brothers return to Joseph's house, they fall before him, like they lay down on the ground. Again, we see Joseph's dreams fulfilled again. Remember, the dream is that they would bow down before him, and now they've done it again. And so Joseph, also a very good actor, plays his role as the angry governor. And he asks his brothers what they did, and asks them, do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination? There's some debate over whether Joseph actually practiced the evil art of divination, or if he just said that for, effect. Divination was indeed practiced in Egypt by staring into a cup or a bowl filled with water. So that was something that they actually did. Sometimes coins or precious stones were placed in the water, and you just sat there and stared at it until you begin to see something. Well, we don't, do we know for certain that Joseph didn't do this evil thing? Well, we do know Joseph, right? So it's kind of doubtful that he practiced real divination. Does he really even need to? I mean, God was telling him what dreams mean. So if God was just speaking to him and telling him what a dream meant, does he really need to practice divination? I don't know. It doesn't seem quite right to me. Of course, it doesn't say for certain that he doesn't, and it doesn't say for certain that he does. He just says, don't you know I could do this? And he's still acting as the governor. So how all that works out, we'll have to ask Joseph when we get to heaven. But for now, I would say it's probably on the safe side. We'd probably say that he's just saying this. You can't pull one over me. I know divination. So, well, here Judah speaks up, and he admits that there's nothing they can say. Like, what can we do? We've got the cup, And he says, God has found out the guilt of your servants. Judah knows that they're not guilty of stealing the cup, right? But he admits to guilt. What guilt is he admitting to? What guilt has God found out? Is Judah just admitting that they had a cup? Or is he thinking of their former sin against Joseph? Their past sins. As the reader, we know their innocence in this case, and we know their prior guilt as well. And the reason why they're going through all this, we know why it's happening. It is because they wanted to murder Joseph. God found out their sin. He has made it known, and he's disciplining them. Now, many years later, Moses will warn the people of Reuben and Gad not to renege on their promises and sin against the Lord. If they did, Moses says, be sure your sin will find you out. And here, this is what's happened to Judah and his brothers. Their sin has found them out. They did some horrendous things in the past, and now God is disciplining them. God has found out their guilt. Not that he didn't know what it was, but he found it out. He's making it known. He's making it a disciplinary action here. And so the guilt has found them out. It's not because that they stole the cup, because he wouldn't be admitting to guilt to that. They didn't steal it. It just was in their bag. And so what does Judah say? Well, Joseph answers Judah that he will act justly, and only the one that is guilty of having the cup will become a slave. Not all of them, but just the one who has the cup, and the rest were free to go. Boom. That's another tier of that plan, right? And now he can have his brother with him, and the rest of them can go home, but he gets to keep his brother. Because the rest of them need to go home and take the food, and they have to go and feed the family, but he's able to keep his brother. And so his plan is working. Everything's going according to plan. And then next we're going to see Judah's going to step up, and he's going to speak here. It's really his speech is the next section. And so we'll take a look at that, how this brother of Benjamin, how he comes to the rescue. So we'll look at that next time. So come back next time, and we'll talk about that.